David. Let's see what's going on with David. Let me see. Lawn crime. 10 critical clues rocking David Tesla's body investigation. 14-year-old Celeste Rivas was found decomposing or dismembered in the back of his Tesla. And it make you wonder, like, is he going to be
Developing
charged?
David investigation, possibly connected to the
My
death
bad.
of a 14-year-old girl found in his
Oh,
car,
shoot.
Celeste Rivas Hernandez. It is time
I'm
to
tripping.
analyze all the major potential pieces
I'm
of evidence,
tripping.
from the alleged friend who just got arrested to a possible burn cage to the car. We are diving into it all right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
What's up,
All right,
Jess?
before we go into this disturbing story, you want to talk about what's disturbing? Did you know Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose body was found in the trunk of a Tesla that was reportedly registered to singer David? I thought now would be a good time to discuss all the possible evidence in this case. If prosecutors are in fact building a case against someone or several people, either for the death of Celeste or the disposal of her body, or maybe both, maybe also this alleged connection between David and Celeste, what evidence is there? There's been a lot of reporting, but what is the evidence? Now, to be clear, this is based on the reporting that we've seen in public statements. We don't know for sure what the evidence is, but we kind of have a pretty good idea. I mean, there is very little that has been said officially, and to be clear also, neither David nor anyone has been officially arrested or charged in connection with Celeste's death. It hasn't been even confirmed by authorities that he is in fact a suspect or is being considered for homicide charges. And as we discussed on other sidebars, one of David's alleged associates or friends, Neil Langston, was arrested out in Montana for reportedly failing to appear as a witness. Apparently brought back to Los Angeles. There was speculation that he was uncooperative. He was an uncooperative witness in the possible Los Angeles grand jury hearing evidence, but we don't know for sure. But between him, David's manager may be testifying, Celeste's body, this potential burn cage, the car, a Santa Barbara trip, surveillance footage, a title transfer, the place David was apparently staying at, we have built up over the last several weeks a collection of potential evidence to analyze. So let's dig into it. I'm not going to do it alone. Let me bring on criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, Safa Robinson-Ferrer, back onto Sidebar. Safa, good to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey,
I
just
want to hear
good to
the
see you.
evidence.
Okay,
Come
so
on.
first let me ask you your take on the arrest of Neil Langston. So assuming he was in fact brought back to testify in front of a Los Angeles grand jury, what do you think the value of his testimony would be?
I think it's going to have significant value, and it speaks to the fact that he was arrested for at least what we believe is failing to appear or failing to testify before the grand jury. In the legal world, we call him a material witness, that he's going to provide some sort of material fact that would essentially bring about an indictment and or a conviction at a trial against any suspect. And it's speculating here, David, the individual that has been a suspect for quite some time. So it's not a surprise that he has been arrested. And it's not a surprise that he may have some information. We believe that he's been a very close friend to David. And so he may very well have more intimate details about David's relationship with Celeste, may have been around her, may have some information that would lead law enforcement to believe that he could have had some very direct.
The arrest of Neil Langston for failure to appear to give testimony, which are the exact words used by the sheriff's department when speaking with me, concerns me to a certain extent, assuming this arrest is related to the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. Targets are not typically called to testify in a case. At the state level, target letters are not always required, but subpoenaing what David's reaction or explanation was when it was disclosed on September 8th that a body had been found in a car registered to him. The only people who would know that are those who were on tour with him at the time. I know Neo started the tour with him, but I do not believe he was there for the entire duration. Rob, probably Robert Morganroth, his manager, who we'll talk more about, Rob likely was involved, but he may not have been on the road continuously or present at every show. Isia, however, I believe, was with David the entire time on the road and at each show, and was with him the day the news broke. And by the way, I think Isia could be possibly Isia Collins, who's maybe a streamer of some kind, maybe a performer. There has been talk about whether or not there was a connection to David, but let's keep going. I believe that because Isia left her car at the rental house on the day they boarded the tour bus for the first show in San Francisco in July. Her car was not picked up until September 19th when her father retrieved it late that evening as seen on surveillance. It would be extremely telling to know how those conversations unfolded after it became public that Celeste's body had been found. I am sure there was shock. Not about the body itself, because they already knew about that, in my opinion, but about the fact that the world was now or knowing of what kind of people they are. Who can do this to a 14-year-old or even have knowledge of it and still live with themselves? Months later, and not even a single offer of condolences.
A motherfucker who don't want to get caught. We're 8 minutes in. Honestly, I just feel like it's a lot of miscellaneous stuff. We're hearing a lot of miscellaneous stuff. No real new evidence that I'm hearing that kind of ties David to this whole thing. Um, I would say one of the main things is that you got a 14-year-old who was acting grown. Facts. You got a 14-year-old who was acting too old for her age. Let's see. I keep on bringing this up. Whenever her parents reported her missing, arguing with neighbors, she actually went back home. While she was missing, she went back home. Her parents never reported that. Are her parents American citizens? I don't know. Because you haven't heard the parents come out and say nothing. But then again, David is 20 years old. What are you doing with a 14-year-old? Apparently, they might say that Celeste had been on the tour bus and they were sharing the room. What's going on back there? How long does it take to charge somebody if this person murdered her? If he murdered her? Speculation about it being a drug overdose. Really just a crazy situation. And I see a lot of people. Look, if that girl had a drug overdose and they know, okay, holy shit, this 14-year-old just had a drug overdose. It's people, she's somewhere she should not be. Who got the drug for her? What's the Mac Miller? Did his drug dealer go to jail? You could be charged with murder if you're the drug dealer. If somebody overdosed on your drugs that you sold them, you could be charged with murder. They've gotten some drug dealers that kind of way. Let's get back to law and crime. I just wanted to put that in there. It just sounds like a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff. Like, is there anything new? Is there anything new about to come about this video? Okay, we know Neo got arrested for failing to, appear as a witness. I mean, Sadie Nash said that they're having like a mock trial. It's sort of like along the lines of they're presenting evidence without a defense. They're like going through like a little trial, but David's defense is not there. I mean, like I'm sure that can have you get ready for some type of trial, but there's no defense pushing back on anything that you're saying. Can you put David in the area whenever that girl went missing? Was you having a relationship with that little girl? I personally think that he was, and I think he's gonna have to answer for that. So I definitely think that that's something they're gonna get him on. The Mann Act, transporting a minor over state lines for what's the word that they use? There's actually a technical word that they use. Let's just see.
Relationship with Celeste, ultimately something occurred that resulted in her death. He may have had other individuals that participated in the concealment of her body, but we don't know that as of yet. And all of these things are alleged. We're just speculating.
I guess his concern is right, like he's thinking.
And I need more evidence that David was able to get people help him hide a 14-year-old's body. That's just speculation. Look at her eyes. Shit, caught her at the wrong time. I need more evidence for that. That don't make no sense for somebody to help a motherfucker hide a body. Now your stupid ass possibly in trouble too. Can't get over how young she was. Every time I see a picture of a baby, I can't wait for him to go down for what he's done. You never know. He might not go down. What can you prove? This guy is entirely too happy in this mugshot. Creepy. Still waiting for David arrest. Justice for Celeste. And throughout all of this is just, what I be thinking. Why hasn't nobody commented on the parents? Lady said absolutely nothing new or interesting. That's what I'm saying. That's why I stopped the video and just started giving my own kind of like monologue type of thoughts. Nothing new is coming from what's going on in this video right here. Let's see this.
Warrant at that property, reportedly took evidence, like maybe even a computer. It was also reported that David had broken the lease, that he moved this stuff out. Talk to me about what evidence you think they gathered potentially from that house and how it was processed.
There's a number of things that could be ultimately retrieved as evidence, if that is the suspected location of the homicide.
And just to push back a little bit, when we spoke to Steve, he indicated there was nothing in there that she was killed or died there, but I don't know.
Because her body was decomposed, they don't really have a time frame on when the girl died. They have like a speculation. She had been dead for around a certain amount of weeks, maybe a little over a month, close to a month. But they don't have an actual date. They don't have an actual date on when she died. Let me look this up. Damn. Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Date. Look. Body found date. Date of discovery September 8th, 2025. Police were called due to a strong foul order coming. Date. This. They don't even know exactly when the young girl died. Reports suggest she last called home May 2024, but other investigators have explored a timeline, with one source monitoring a last confirmed sighting in early 2025. Like, sad situation, but way, 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 way too grown. Way, 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 way too grown. And yeah, they gonna get David. They gonna get David.
I don't know if investigators found something else that he didn't. Well, I don't know for sure, but just giving everybody a little context there.
Sure. So ultimately, what could have been located is particularly if David was staying there would be, maybe some sort of DNA evidence. His clothing could have been clothing or anything that he may have had on at the alleged time of the incident. Again, if we're going under the assumption that he is the suspect. So certain DNA evidence that could be obtained from the clothing. If a computer was taken, then there's certain digital forensic evidence that could be on those drives that law enforcement could ultimately pull. So if there is a certain manner of death that's determined and we see that there is information on that hard drive that is consistent.
When she
I'm gonna skip around because we didn't already seen all this. So whenever I start seeing the pictures, I
when
already
she
know what
died,
they're gonna
we
talk
don't know
about.
exactly, but this is an interesting
That they plan to charge.
A couple more pieces of evidence I have to ask you about. You mentioned timeline, right? When she died, we don't know exactly, but this is an interesting timeline because we
Like
believe
I
that she
said,
disappeared from Lake Elsinore in 2024. There was surveillance footage from, I believe, March 2024 that was released. It was taken from a local liquor shop in that area. She apparently lived nearby. It seemingly captures her walking, then jogging down a street. She disappears from view. We thought that might be the last footage, but then TMZ obtained footage of what appears to be Celeste in September of 2024. And in this footage that was captured on Nest camera on September 8th, 2024, so a year before her body was found, she's seen having some sort of conversation with neighbors, reportedly over a prank that was pulled on her parents' home, potentially a ding-dong ditch, not entirely sure. And TMZ reported that there was maybe some racial slurs that may have been asserted in this altercation. So you see that footage. And then Steve Fisher indicated that the last known photograph, proof of life, that he has of Celeste was January 2025. And then you couple that with LAPD releasing a statement that, quote, we have evidence that David traveled to the Santa Barbara area sometime during the spring of 2025. The reason for that trip is still under investigation, and we've drawn no conclusions at this point about the relevance of the trip to this case. Again, couple that with the idea of how long was she in that Tesla. I also have to say, I think it's interesting that Neil Langston, the house where he was arrested, his mom's house, apparently she bought that house in March of 2025. So if we're trying to set up a timeline here of what happened to Celeste Safa, what do you think the relevance is? What are you taking away from the evidentiary value of that timeline?
okay, we can hear her opinion on
Absolutely.
this.
So what we know, at least if there's that last proof of life video from January 2025, we know that her body was recovered in September of 2025. That in between time frame, which indicates that, she may have still been alive for some time, but there might be evidence that David came to the area that she was located in, at least maybe in March. She still could have been alive at that point in time. I think that there was evidence that she had been deceased for at least a month before her body was recovered. And so one of the things that will have to happen is that law enforcement's going to investigate if there's any indication that she was still alive in those in-between months of January to maybe July or August. If there's a footprint of her online or social media that is true and accurate to the time that, say, for example, she posted something on social media in June of 2025, then we can narrow it. And if it's properly authenticated as her being alive and at that specific date and time, then we know we can narrow the timeline as to when she was actually possibly murdered. And again, if we're looking at timeline and David being on tour, other individuals being involved, what the prosecution is going to do is narrow it down as precise as possible. And they may say something to the effect of, on or around August 1st, 2025, or between these dates to these dates, we believe that Celeste Rivas was murdered by this sort of manner by this individual. And so as long as the timeline
Just more speculation. There's really nothing new coming from this. It sounds like they're gonna have a hard time proving that David killed the young girl. If he did, we don't know that he did. Maybe she overdosed. Maybe he had a hand in hiding the body. Maybe he helped cover some things up. Who really knows? But it does appear that the police are going to have a very hard, difficult time proving that he killed or had hands hiding evidence of the young girl's disappearance or death. I mean, like if it was so cut and dry, he'd be charged, right? He'd be charged, but he's not. You guys get inside the commercial below. Let me think about this. Why is it taking so long for them to charge somebody with the death of this 14-year-old? Y'all get inside the comments below. Let me know what you think about this.